Hey folks, Malforian here, and welcome back to another video. Well, surprise to us, Dev Diary 90 came out. They had the little update on Tuesday, which is the day that Dev Diaries usually are released, saying it was coming soon. I made a video about that because they did mention a couple of the things that were going to be coming, and then surprise, surprise, it's here on a Thursday. So it's kind of funny. I would have thought they just mentioned on Tuesday. It's just patch notes. There's no talking about future content or anything like that. So we're just going to take a look through a couple of fixes that caught my eye. So I did actually quite like this. They at the beginning they talk about like cultural hybrids and the COA designer, and they've actually called out one of the Reddits. I didn't know this Reddit existed. It's just a subreddit with a bunch of designs that you can use in the game, and they've put a couple of them in here. A lot of these are pretty funny. This one, peace was never an option with the old goose. It's kind of cool that they're calling out like these cool designs people have been making for all the different ones. I mean, this was obviously Pingu, and then a special call out to a Twitter user who had made these really cool ones here as well. So this one's coffee, I think, by the looks of it, and a pie. And it does show like the complexity you can put into the designer for it. So it's quite cool, just give you maybe ideas of what you could design. So yeah, they mentioned on Tuesday that they'd updated the lighting and the shadows in the court, and I did mention in that video like, oh, I didn't notice it was really that weird, so I was kind of surprised to see maybe what the changes were going to be. And they've actually shown a before and after here, and actually it does look way better, especially this example here for Mena. This looks, if I'd seen this in game I'd be like, oh, that looks fine. But then this is the fixed version. That's definitely way better. I guess the lighting was, it's kind of yellowy here, whereas this looks more like just normal daylight. So, and then obviously in the evening, it's shown like the dusk version, I guess. And kind of you can see where the light's coming in a little bit better. And then they also show off they've added some more 3D artifact models. So they've got this really cool Throne of Solomon here. I mean, look how amazing that looks. Absolutely incredible. So they've added this. They've added a bunch of new swords and maces for different regions of the game. This cool looking axe. This Oliphant horn. I don't know if this is like a weird Lord of the Rings homage or something, but anyway, yeah, this new horn. I think later on they explained that it's been added to the game as a new artifact. And then, some more events. So this is obviously a lot of bug fixes, a lot of balancing and stuff like that, but they have also added some events. So there's a bunch of new events for different things. There's some new events for like traits that you have as well. So it's quite cool, a little free update, but they have also put some content in there as well. So there's something about trinkets. I think they're all artifact related, the ones they're showing here. So liability about, in the midst of festivities, the captain of the guard hurries towards me. My lord, it seems that someone has set fire to the throne of Charlemagne. Oh, jeez. The evidence points towards my lord's vassal, the Prince Archbishop Gebhard, who has been acting strange this evening. The Prince Archbishop here has come in and set fire to his throne. It looks like you get events, probably modifiers, and then there's probably ways you can like fix it up or whatever. There's one here, I never like this piece anyway. I wonder if that destroys it or something. I'm not sure. Obviously, we can't see. Obviously, next time we play in a campaign, hopefully we'll get some of these events and we'll see more events. Yeah, I won't go through them all. I'll leave a link to the dev diary in the description. You can take a look through. But there's some cool new bonus events. And then onto the actual changes. So I've highlighted some of them here that called out kind of as I look through them. There's a lot of changes. So I just picked out the ones that looked like the ones I'd encountered or maybe were interesting. There's obviously a bunch more. Probably some that I've missed. They're quite big. They've definitely fixed some exploits and stuff like that. So quite a lot of changes. So the first ones are really good. It's all about the AI and how it does factions. So now the AI is now more likely to leave factions when they like your liege, so like their liege. So if you've been playing since Royal Court came out, I definitely encountered this during our achievement live streams that we do every Wednesday. There was just so many more factions than before. So this means if they like you, they're not going to join factions or they'll leave quicker. They'll no longer press factions, claimant factions for, if they like you, they're not going to push a claimant that they don't even like, which sometimes was happening. And they also consider faith hostility. So they're not going to, if you're playing in like England and you're Catholic, they're not going to be, let's get this Satru guy in charge. They're going to be like, they're going to take that more into account than they were before, which is really, really good. That's going to hopefully reduce the amount of factions and give you a bit more stability in your campaigns. Added a new game rule, Empire Obscurity, which makes empires that control below 20% of the de jure counties be destroyed. This will solve empires sticking around forever as micro realms. I'd seen this before, not in my campaigns, but I do AI onlys on the channel, and I had noticed at the end you'd sometimes have like the HRE as almost like a one county in the Alps or something crazy. I'd never kind of noticed this during gameplay, but it's quite cool that it will now get destroyed, and then I imagine you can remake it, obviously, if you're one of the other people who could make it. It's now much harder to invite inspired people to your court. Practically impossible to invite anyone who's currently being sponsored. You could use this before by basically just invite inspired people and just fill up your court with really good artifact people. So again, it's kind of like fixing a kind of an exploit, I guess, but it kind of makes a little bit more sense. You could just invite anyone that you wanted. Only house heads will now demand the return of artifacts. Yeah, you just get spammed with this. You should just get spammed by this, or sometimes when I'd ally with someone, they'd always been in an artifact claim war. So it looks like this will prevent a lot of that spamming happening. Only house heads can now do that, so it should reduce it significantly. The AI will no longer demand artifacts from players they like a lot, no longer keep asking you after you've refused. Again, I've not encountered this one, but when you just get the same thing spamming through, it's definitely pretty infuriating, so a good fix again. Development progress from industrious cultural tradition is now applied at most once a year. I'd seen this a lot on the subreddit, people just showing like crazy development upgrades in certain areas by using this cultural tradition. So again, it's kind of fixing an exploit that people were taking advantage of. The prestige gained from the artifact trait when it's boosted via cultural traditions has been changed from 50% to a flat 0.5. Again, same as the one above. You could just exploit this for crazy prestige gains. Tweaked various factors in the war for England in order to reduce the chances of Harold winning. They did mention this in the teaser that yeah, Harold basically always wins at the moment, so we might see a Norman conquest in the future. And then if they do win, they move the capital to London. I've never seen them win since the patch, so I guess they just weren't doing that before. Tribal kings and emperors and now have access to the Royal Court. I'm kind of surprised this is so far down. I would have had this like at the top in like bold here or something. But actually, no, did they mention it further up? I think they did actually, didn't they? I'm not sure. No, they didn't. Yeah, I would have had that in like bold at the top. It's like a major change, because a lot of people had an issue with this when the expansion came out, that if you were tribal, you couldn't use the main mechanic of the expansion. So yeah, tribal kings and emperors can now have the Royal Court, but it does play differently. So it works a little bit different. As they mentioned, you get your expected grandeur is always the same as your court level. It cannot be above or below. All amenity levels except the first two are blocked, so it kind of limits how good the court can be. And amenity costs are greater if tribal. It was trivially cheap. I guess because you could always just go raiding for like gold and stuff, so it made you could just stockpile gold and have everything turned up if you didn't limit it. And there's only one core type tribal. Again, they brought them in, which is fantastic. Like I said, I kind of think they should have been in there when they launched the expansion, but it's good to see they've come in so quick. And well, it's been a month, I suppose, but still relatively quick. And it is different. They've not just literally just slapped it into tribal and said, okay, guys, you get it as tribal, and it plays the same. They've actually limited it, so you will want to move to feudal and then have that fancy court, or you can stay tribal, have a limited court, but you do have access to the thing and all the events. There's obviously some events, as it mentions further below, that aren't in there because they don't make sense, like founding a new city. What are we on to next? The AI. A lot of AI changes that again are fantastic. So similar to the faction one, that was a big issue with the expansion. This one is improving how your allies go to war. So the top one is a unit stack wanting to resupply will spread out its subunit stacks to neighboring provinces, even though said provinces might not allow resupplying in order to avoid attrition. I saw this sometimes, but this is fantastic. This stops basically the AI just, if you're sieging a city, they'll come to the county next door to it and just stand there. Even if there's like 10,000 of them and the supply limit's like 500 or something silly, they'll just stand there and they'll just attrition to death, and then they'll just go, we're off home. So yeah, they're actually going to spread out, like you do as a player. They're being sensible about it. The AI should take player units into account for supply situations. Again, similar thing. So if you're sieging somewhere, you've got 10,000 troops, and then they come along and they go, I'll help you siege that down. And now there's like 40,000 of you trying to siege a fort, and just the attrition gets crazy because there's way too many of them, and they're not really helping you that much. So this is gonna hopefully mean they move away. They realize like, we're gonna put you over the attrition limit, so we're gonna we're going to move over to this other area. Again, should really help you. And then this one I'm kind of sad to see. AI stops raising levies with very small amounts of troops. I always thought it was kind of funny when you're at war, and then, you know, France would send like one troop and you just see them moving across the map to you. And it's like, cool, thanks. Thanks for that one levy that you sent to help me. But yeah, it's kind of good it got fixed, because it was a bit silly, to be honest. And in Great Holy Wars, the AI will be more focused on finding about the war goals and less likely to shy away from confrontation due to numerical weakness. I'm guessing this was what they were talking about for Crusades. They're going to actually focus on the war goal rather than doing stupid stuff and dying, getting attrition, doing all this weird stuff. They're just going to, you know, get to actually trying to win the Crusade and block the AI from overspending in hold court events. This is just to stop people you know, going bankrupt, basically, by constantly holding court events and just using the option that costs money. And you just see some AI realms just bankrupt themselves from just doing it. So all in all those together should really help make wars a little bit better, and also just make them a little bit more stable by the looks of it. Performance, basically they just improved how the game's going to run. And then under interface, like I said, there's a bunch of things here about little corrections they've done, just tidying things up. But recruited prisoners can now be forced to take the vows when negotiating release. Again, to kind of snuck that in, can just force people to take the vows, which would be pretty interesting to do, because if they take the vows, they no longer get inheritance. I wonder if you can kind of mess up people's inheritance by using this. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out. And then art, I'm not going to go through these art. Like I say, they've added a bunch of 3D appearances for some weapons. They've added the Throne of Solomon. They've added a bunch of special clothes and things like that, and fixed up a couple of little things. And then game content, the good things. Well, everything's good, but this is extra good. Added notification, personal artifact claim, and prestige loss after losing a war banner in battle. Losing war banners in battles or gaining them is actually one of my favourite bits of the expansion, and it's cool that you'll now get a notification if it happens to you. I think if you won, you always got a notification. You got to pop up and it, you know, talked about what was happening. But if you lost it, yeah, you didn't get notified, I think, sometimes. And then they've added, like I was saying at the beginning, a bunch of events, more hunt events, more feasts, yearly football, which is okay. We'll see what that's like. New martial one, skullduggery, intimidation, athletic traits get a new set of events, and for lisp traits. So again, this is building up, I think, some flavor for different playthroughs. In CK2, by the end, there was a bunch of events, and there was just always cool stuff going on. And you know, now this is kind of building in some of those just background events that can happen, just to make it feel, you know, if you play as an athletic character, you're going to see events that you just won't see otherwise. So cool, just kind of rounding out some of the events. And then yeah, the Oliphant artifact is a new artifact that can be found by adventurers. So there we go. We'll see what that does. User modding, I won't go over because I have no idea. I'm guessing this is all good, but I don't know, so we'll leave that be. And then yeah, databases. I'm not going to read through these again because there's so many of them. But basically, it's just fixing up how some things were happening. You know, added more straits to Zealand, so you can kind of get there a little bit easier. And basically, just this is where they like fix how things are usually in the bookmarks. So yeah, fix the historical ruler for somewhere, move the capital of Bulgaria, improved historical cultural setup of Estonia, Latvia. So I'm not going to read through these because I don't really know like how big a change they are, but yeah, if there's a certain area of the map that you like, take a look. There's probably cool things that have changed, but it's all about kind of just fixing up how the game starts and things like that. I want to see what this roasted plum color is though. That might be interesting. And then we're on to the last section, I think, which is bug fixes. Which again, there's an absolute mountain of them, but we'll just pick out the ones that caught my eye. Council task events should now fire again as intended. Again, this should have been at the top because yeah, council tasks weren't working for the majority of the time. So you'll now get those commander events. You'll get some gold events. You know, depending on your councillor, you'll get those little events that just weren't happening. So a pretty major fix that, like I said, I kind of would have thought they'd be at the top or highlighted. Like this is a major fix to the game, but it's good to see it anyway. Defender value in sieges should no longer become insanely high due to changing underlying factors, and sieges should no longer lose progress when the total value falls under the current progress. I didn't realize this was a bug. Well, I kind of guess I did know it was a bug. I encountered this again on our Wednesday night achievement live streams, where I'd just be sieging somewhere and then it would just lose its progress. I think it happened in the last episode, and I was just sat there like, what's going on? Like, I was definitely sieging that place down, and then it just restart, and it's like, what is going on? So I guess there we go. That's what was happening. It was bugging out and resetting the progress. Estonians should now have access to the Varangian adventures for owners of the Northern Lords. Fantastic. You can do some bringing adventures if you're Estonian. Holy Orders shall now raise themselves when at war or pledged to Great Holy War. So all those Holy Orders, they'll actually come and help you in Great Holy Wars now. They won't show us raised, because I think before they showed us raised, so you couldn't raise them, but you'd never see them on the map. So I guess what was happening is that was it. They were kind of raised, but then they'd never actually go and help or appear. So yeah, that'll make some quite big changes, I would imagine, to Holy Wars, if they actually come and help. If a scheme is exposed, your spy master won't reveal themselves as the plotter anymore. So yeah, they'll no longer come to you and say, hey, Lord, I found a scheme that's been exposed. Who was it? It was me. It was me, my lord. I was trying to kill you. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Fantastic. So yeah, that's fixed. And yeah, that's it. That's all the ones I'm going to call out. Like I say, I'll leave a link to the patch notes in the description. There's a bunch more, but they were the things that really stood out for me, but a load of other small changes as well. So hopefully this makes your campaigns a little bit better, especially if you start a new game. And I imagine next week we might start getting some spoilers on what the next update's going to be. Like I say, I think it'll be a content pack, a flavor pack, whatever they call them these days. So yeah, hopefully we start getting some little teasers as to what might be coming along. So as always, guys, if you've enjoyed the video, if you like the Dev Diary coverage, leave a comment down below, like the video, and yeah, subscribe to the channel if it's your first time here, or if you visit often but are not subscribed. I would appreciate it greatly, and I'll catch you in the next one.